Hey everyone, Ryan here, we're M&R Productions with a review of a classic from the year 2001. We have the first instance of a LEGO Star Wars Imperial AT-ST, given set number 7127 for ages 7 to 12. It had 107 pieces, and back in the day, retailed for a very clean $10. Inflation adjusted into 2021, though, that's about $15. And if you want to buy this thing brand new in box on eBay or Bricklink or another third-party site, it's going to cost you about $75 in today's market. So getting pretty high up there. Nice Endor box art in the background there. 2001, so we're still rocking the classic Star Wars Lego logo there. Top of the box just has a bunch of information for us. Bottom of the box is going to be more of the same story. The side of the boxes, though, on some of these older sets are pretty cool. You can see Chewbacca standing at the feet of the AT-ST and then inside of the AT-ST, and then on the other side, just him looking at the control panel. So that's pretty neat. Back of the box shows a couple alternate builds, which is something they don't do on modern day Lego sets, but they look cool in this case. And then above that, we have the AT-ST just broken down. Cracking into this classic, we will find some bags inside, and I always love these older style Lego bags with the holes in them. See a lot of parts in this one. And it looks like, as usual with these 2001 sets, we have a ton of different little pamphlets. So we have one for a free Lego catalog. Maybe you can call that phone number today and get a free Lego catalog. We also have a pamphlet with some other sets on it with Star Wars, Harry Potter, soccer, Jack Stone. Quite a few themes there. And then on the back, you can see we have Racers, Alpha Team, and many other old themes that maybe you recognize, maybe you don't. Specifically with Star Wars, you have kind of a set that goes very well with this in the Ewok Attack, released at the same time for those interested. And then, of course, the giant instruction manual. Lego had some pretty big instruction manuals back in the day. See, normal instruction manual with like movie clips on the top, which was actually a pretty cool thing with these older manuals. You can see Chewbacca there. He's even labeled. And then in the back, you have other sets. I always love showing off the back of these manuals. There's just really cool stuff back there. The very back even has some of the Technic lineup, which was not Lego Star Wars's best lineup. Definitely not the worst either, probably. This is the original Chewbacca, released in 2001 with this set, but a couple had come out the year prior in 2000. This was the same exact design, though. This Chewbacca is rough, to say the least. It is in the older brown color, which some may prefer, but I do prefer the reddish brown that was released in the mid-2000s. And on top of that, he looks like he had like open head surgery. The top of his head was glued back onto the rest of it. You can see there's a clear and distinct cut, basically, in the top of his head. Very, very odd, to say the least. At least his bandolier is nicely on there as part of the mold, and it does have the print there in silver, so that's good. The flow of his hair is also pretty nice, and they got the black dot for his nose. Underneath that whole assembly, though, is a whole lot of nothing, and there doesn't really need to be anything, but yeah, that is the only figure you get in the set, which is a bit of a shame. Definitely could have gone for like an Imperial AT-ST Pilot, which we would get in later years, of course, but early on, it was just a character missed. Before I tear this AT-ST a third eye hole, just remember the year's 2001. For 2001, this was fine. But it's 2021 now. It's been 20 years. The set did not age well at all. In fact, it may be the worst aged Lego Star Wars set ever, and maybe that's a video worth doing. And this set very well may have just given me the inspiration to make that video for the future of worst aged Lego Star Wars sets, because this is just atrocious. So let's talk about it. Up front, for 10 bucks, I mean, it was a nice solid build. The size was good. It was just a solid, it's what you would expect for a $10 AT-ST, especially in 2001. It would be insane to get a 10 or inflation adjusted $15, maybe even $20 AT-ST in today's world. But they did it back in the day, which is pretty cool. That aside, there is something else cool on here, the top of the hatch. Now, this isn't the actual hatch that you open to get to the inside of the AT-ST head, but it is cool that the piece does have the print that represents it, so that's really nice. You also have some weaponry on the exterior of the head that can spin up and down up to 360 degrees. Same can be said for the other side of the AT-ST head with this nice boom microphone, so you can actually talk to the Ewoks. At least that's what Lego wants you to think it's for. It's actually for killing them. Really like the ability to change the angle on the very front cannons, so that's nice. You can move them down or move them all the way straight up, which looks a little bit awkward to me, I think. Just slightly angled down is probably the best look. The face of this thing kind of reminds me of Stonehenge. Maybe some of you guys are getting that same vibe. It's made with as few pieces as humanly possible, let's be honest. So yeah, the head itself does not turn. Externally on the back, we also have a couple of, I believe on the actual ATSTs, like fans or ventilation things. So I think that's what they're supposed to be. So that looks nice. But the head of the ATST doesn't turn independently of the legs. The legs actually move. And I found this to be the weirdest thing ever on this ATST. I had no idea. I never owned the set, not even as a little kid, but these axles like move together, and that's kind of how you can move the legs. 1, 2. It's actually kind of an interesting walking motion for like kids to play with. It obviously is terribly inaccurate and doesn't look very good, and there's just lots of reasons that this is bad, but the pro to it is that you can actually get a pretty cool walking motion for kids to like easily move it, because the posability of the legs is not that great for actually making the walking motion come to life. So you kind of have to pick and choose there. So there's also some like interesting things here. You have to bend the legs in a very specific way. I've never seen a piece be like pushed in because of the bend of Technic pieces before. I just find that to be a really cool building technique there. You also see brown for the feet of the ATST, a lot of brown up here for the Technic pin pieces. Just, I believe the brown to be rather inaccurate on this ATST. It's not a color scheme that is particularly pleasing, on top of the fact that it uses the older gray colors that LEGO obviously changed out for the bluish gray color scheme right around 2004, I think. So yeah, the color scheme on this is pretty putrid, but it does have some decent detailing with like studs here. Like that's as fine a detail as you're gonna get. So the feet are nice. They actually work well to distribute the weight. You don't have to worry about this thing toppling over really, unless you put it in this position, and then you kind of run that danger. But the best feature for this set, at least to me, is actually the ability to access the cockpit or the head of the ATST. You can open up this hatch on top, which will give you a pretty nice access, and you can place Chewbacca in there and have him looking out the top of the ATST, just like in episode 6, which is a really great feature. You can also pull this whole thing back if you want a more full access to the inside of the ATST's head, and you can see in here there's not very much going on. There's some oddly colored pieces, which would have been nice if LEGO just did them in gray at this point to make it all just kind of match, but they didn't. And then you also have got a really cool printed brick on an inverted 2x2 slope brick. It looks great as you're inside of the ATST about to perhaps shoot at another ATST. I think that's an awesome printed brick to have in there. As far as seating for Chewbacca goes, you have a couple of grill tile pieces at the bottom there, so you actually don't have to stick his legs onto any studs, which is great because that would be a huge problem, as his legs would essentially get stuck in there from time to time. But you can see this closes up just fine with him in there, and you might be able to get a peek at him in there. Can't really tell. He's in there though. So yeah, he fits in there really nicely. You don't have to worry about that being a problem back in 2001 or today. Look, this set isn't good, and it didn't have to be for 2001. It just had to be cheap, include a Chewbacca minifigure, and roughly resemble an ATST while being called an ATST so that people would know what it is. But it certainly hit the mark for 2001. Obviously something like this would not fly today, but it's got that nostalgic charm for some people. It doesn't quite have that for me, as I never owned this, but it certainly harkens back to a time in LEGO Star Wars where coloring wasn't quite everything. The minifigures didn't stand up to what they are today, and it was just a simple set to have a set exist, and that's kind of all this was. The ATST that released 6 years later in 2007 was leaps and bounds better, and certainly more worth the money for what was twice the price at that time. This one feels like a ripoff in comparison. I don't think it was, but when you look at the two side by side and you think 20 bucks for that or $10 for this, I think the choice is pretty clear for most involved. This set just isn't good. It's cheap, but it's not well built. It's quirky, and you know, it's you can like that certainly, but it's just not that good. Well, let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments below. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed the review, and you can check out more LEGO Star Wars reviews on the end screen now.